Prove me wrong, but men can't write romance. I don't think I have ever read a believable romance written by anyone other than a woman. And I think that's why there is such a side eye toward romance as a genre, because it is something that belongs solely to women, and men just don't understand it. In fact, I have introduced my husband to a couple series, forced him into reading them with me, and he has always been surprised because it just feels more. I love romance as a genre. I think it is one of the best. Can be. Let me caveat that. It can be one of the best. I have very strong opinions about romance in general as far as a genre. And so today we are discussing the good, the bad, and the ugly of romance. Now, as with all things, these are my opinions. I feel like I have to throw this on there. I'm doing my best when I talk about the bad and the ugly. I am doing my best to simply talk about either the way they were written or a perspective that throws me off or just something about the structure of the story, not the author themselves. I think it's fantastic that you can publish a whole book, and it doesn't matter if I think that that book is not hitting for me. Congratulations to you for writing that, because I could never. I hope to, but anyway. So that's kind of the idea behind this. Again, check me in the comments if I get a little rude or anything. I really am going to do my best to just make this about the story structure itself. Starting things off with the ugly. Now, these just happen to be stories that I had to DNF because I didn't like the structure so much, or there was just something that didn't sit right with me. And so this is kind of, bear that in mind. To me, that is the ugly. I have most recently read Lovesick by Celeste Byers. And now this one, when I was reading the Goodreads reviews, it was very well rated. And so I think this is a me thing. This is a story about a dancer who has a heart condition that kind of sends her back home and under her parents' care again. And her romance with a hockey player. Love a hockey romance. You're going to notice the theme of that a lot. For me, this one was a struggle because I feel like the authors who like to write with sarcasm, I can usually connect with them really well. I love a little funny in my stories. And if it's done well, it's fantastic. But if it's not done well, then it feels like this one felt to me. And to me, this one I struggled because the author was using sarcasm in a way that didn't feel true to the characters themselves. And so it kind of takes me out of the story. And so when the character references the man's member and calls it a meat thermometer, or she's talking about his abs and she calls them Hawaiian sweet rolls, to me that does not read as this character is talking about it. It's the author is narrating it in a way that doesn't feel authentic to it, and so it was not believable as a romance. The characters themselves just didn't come to life for me. Second on this list for me is It Starts With Us by Colleen Hoover. I admit, yes, I read It Ends With Us, and I had actually gotten it for free from a Goodreads giveaway, so it ended up on my desk. I gave it a go. I cringed. I hate the letters to Ellen DeGeneres. It Ends With Us was published in 2016. It Starts With Us was published in 2022, so it felt like, with the distance between publishing, It Ends With Us blew up, especially during the pandemic. And so this felt like an unnecessary addition to the story. If you're at all familiar, this is about a domestic abuse situation. Girl gets out of it with one guy, ends up with her childhood sweetheart. And that is all encapsulated in the It Ends With Us book. When you get to It Starts With Us, it's what's the point, you know? And that's what I felt about this, is that the author, my own views on Colleen Hoover are an entirely different thing. But with this story in particular, what more was there to say? And to me, plot with no point makes me hate a book. And so that's why this one ends up on my The Ugly list. I could not finish it, couldn't get through it. I cringed impossibly at the Ellen DeGeneres journals. And that's the thing, that's the other thing, is this is so dated because the Ellen DeGeneres downfall, I believe, had already happened in 2022. So it's a very strange time capsule. Anyway, that is why ended up on the ugly. A DNF for me as well. The last one on my ugly list is one that I wish that I had DNF'd. Never take recommendations from General Book Talk. Just don't. If He Had Been With Me by Laura Nowlin. This was for another book club, so I had to read it, and I committed to not DNFing it, and I wish I had been able to DNF it because it felt very Wattpad-y. And what do I mean by that? I mean, again, we're talking about what is the point of the things that you're sharing. Do they move the story forward? Do they structure around the plot? Do they create something, create momentum, create anything? And when I think of Wattpadding, I think of, okay, I'm writing a story where I can self-insert myself, and I can think back to situations when I was in high school, and I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have said that. I wish, and it feels self-fulfilling. And so I suppose that's what bothered me the most about this, is like the author gave the main girl, she's not like other girls, but she's so pretty and everyone loves her and da 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 da. And so then it just covered up the entire plot. The plot centers around two next door neighbors who kind of grow up together, very different high school experiences, end up together in the last smidge of the book, and then it's over. And what was the point of calling it a romance if that was the extent of the romance? So for me, that encapsulates the ugly. They are stories without points. They are stories where the author is struggling to find voices for the characters that feel authentic, that make it feel like a character I can relate to, that make it feel more than just the author kind of self-reflecting, self-inserting, if that makes sense to you, because it makes sense to me. Now we shift into the bad. Now, these ones, I have read them all. I know that there are some split opinions, so when I say that I don't like something in this category, know that I know in general a lot of people like this, and I don't consider that a fault. I consider this differing opinions. I am going to again go into the reasons why I don't like these stories or why they didn't work for me, and that is not the be-all end-all of these. So this is the bad. And again, we're keeping consistent with a lot of the themes of why stories didn't work for me. First, Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. This is about a figure skater who is part of pairs, and she's having issues with her partner. She ends up dating a hockey player. The two have their little romance thing. And that's about the extent. Again, I talk about plot. I talk about lots and lots of plot, and what's the point of the plot without anything behind it. It Starts With Us is kind of the direct line of this. Same. It Starts With Us is the parallel that I'm trying to get to here, is that this story had pretty low stakes. I don't think that that's a nail in the coffin for a story for me. Low stakes is, I can get past low stakes if the story is good. However, this one was just extra long, to the point where I'm like, okay, we get it, we're there, I get it, I don't care. And so this one, again, it's just a heavy plot for no reason. My second one, this one is controversial, and I am sorry for that, but Quicksilver by Callie Hart. We want to talk about overtropification. I struggled with this. We have Saris. She is an alchemist. She doesn't know it. She is trained as a blacksmith, but when she is near this Quicksilver, she makes it come to life, and she's able to use it to travel realms. It's a whole thing. It's really cool, foundational part of a story. Unfortunately, that's about as far as it goes. It overtropifies to the point where you have instant hate tied to instant lust in a cringy way that I had a hard time getting past, because that instant hate did not translate well when they had a relationship eventually. Like, it would be to the point where he would call her a B, and he would just she's like, I hate you, and then she's like, but I had to squeeze my legs together because I wanted him so much and I didn't want him to be able to notice, and blah. And you're just like, okay, whatever you say. Anyway, I did read it. I didn't love it. Will I be reading Brimstone anyway? Yes, I will. And it might be a hate read. I don't know. Maybe I'll like it this time. Who knows? That is categorized in the bad for me. So this next one is The Mistake by L. Kennedy. And this is a new reason that I haven't talked about yet for why a romance doesn't work for me. So the main romance in this is between another hockey player and a woman who goes to the college with him. And their romance is fine. It's not over the top or anything to me. The issue that I had with this is these side characters. And I think that this author tried to create some of the complexities, which I'll talk about in the good, because there is a lot to be said for having it be more than just boy likes girl, boy gets girl, blah, blah, blah. This one, I feel like the author really did try to create some, external friendships and relationships and how those intersect. Unfortunately, she did not do it successfully. The female main character in this story has a friendship with the male main character's friends. And in that friendship, she's like lightheartedly calling them man whores, and she's whatever. Like it's almost a friendly, funny thing. But then she also, her only main best friend, she spends so much of the story talking about how slutty she is, how she looks so hollow these days, and she dresses in less and less. And so it feels like one of those things where the relationship outside of the main characters did not work. Don't take recommendations from Book Talk. This is Salt by L.A. Farrow. This is an age gap romance, and you want to talk about over-tropification. You want to talk about cringe. The dialogue in this one, it's been a while since I read it, so this is a romance between, there's this man who's friends with this other guy, and the man has a daughter, and he dies, and so the daughter is left in the other guy's care. And the other guy is wealthy and owns a baseball team, and the girl works for said team, I guess. The introduction to the book is like, at 8, he gave me flowers. At 15, I started noticing him. And then at 21, I was ready and attracted to him. And so it just it crosses some weird lines of I was attracted to him as a child. In and of itself, age gap romance can be strange because of that. I very much struggle there. But beyond that, the only thing that I had really written in my review, and so it took me a minute to jog my memory on this, was it feels like somebody went through Home Goods and took those signs and just pulled quotes off of those signs and inserted them into the dialogue. It is not natural dialogue. It is trying to insert wisdom into situations that it does not feel natural. So just in general, the characters didn't work, the dialogue didn't work, and I'm doing my best here. I don't want to talk shit on this author because I think it's fantastic to be able to create a whole story like this. I think that's great. I think for myself, when I've tried to write anything, dialogue is the toughest part, especially if you're trying to convey some kind of wisdom or thing that doesn't feel natural to the characters, which is why a lot of people will introduce the wise outside force that is helping guide our lovers through their romance. And so that, I think, was just the issue for this one for me. So that is the bad, that little cluster of 4. Again, I don't say that you shouldn't read it or anything like that. These are just, they didn't hit well for me. And shout out to the authors for being able to write these, because I could never. Now we move on to the good. These are the romances that I can't stop thinking about. These are my favorites, and let me tell you why. These beat out, I can kind of contrast these ones to the other ones for you, so you'll understand what I mean when I'm trying to dissect why these are good romances. And why do I need to dissect why I think about things the way I think about them? I don't know. But this is it. First of all, Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan. This is the one that sparked this interest. This is a story about a woman who has divorced a man. They were one of those relationships that everybody envied, and somewhere along the way they fell apart. And the reason they fell apart is because they lost a child together, and they weren't managing the grief. She was going to therapy and trying to grow past it. He would not go to therapy and was just kind of digging his heels in and trying to ignore it. And so this is them dealing with watching the other one move on, realizing the emotions that they still have for each other, dealing with the complexities of, have you actually grown, or are you still where you're at? The complexities, these feel like real characters. This feels like something more. When I'm thinking about any of these other stories, Icebreaker, I think, is one that I mentioned that wasn't really written in a way that had a lot of meaning and plot to it. It was like the characters were created and they tried to add complexities, like the mistake by L. Kennedy really tried to create some depth to the story, but it just did not come across well in those. This one, it absolutely came across well, and it is intersectional, and it is complex, and these problems are so much more than just a romance. And so that is why it is one of my top tier. You should read this if you have not. Kennedy Ryan, I will read anything she puts her name on. Second one, Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is all about the NASA program and about a woman who's a part of it who also happens to be gay. And so she is trying to become an astronaut, and she cannot be herself if she wants to become an astronaut. And so it's just added complexities. Now, apart from the complexities of these characters, the thing that really works for me with this is the show Don't Tell. Now, this is a really hard thing to do, and I think Taylor Jenkins Reid has really grown as an author to this point, and that is why this story is as good as it is, because she's had a lot of practice with prior books. And I think that It Starts With Us is a great example of it not working well, because in It Starts With Us, the journal entries to Ellen DeGeneres, these letters to Ellen, do a lot of heavy lifting of trying to tell a story and do a lot of the tell. Right? It is trying to do more than it should be. Whereas in Atmosphere, perfect example, she is gay and she's not clicking, it's not realizing for her yet, and so she's trying to figure out why she's not liking this man who likes her that's also part of the program. And they are drinking, and they are in New Orleans, and they go out to a strip club, and she is sitting there just mesmerized by these women. And for the first time, we are seeing her connect that maybe she's attracted to these women. And this leads her to finally coming to the truth of what she believes about herself. And so it does the story justice. It is show, don't tell. This is her growing as a character without having to tell us that she's growing as a character. It is such a phenomenal example of this. The third one is Bride by Ali Hazelwood. I know that this one is controversial because some of my favorite reviewers have talked about how they don't love this one, but I do. I love this one. So if you're unfamiliar, Bride is about a world with humans, vampires, werewolves. They are all kind of living together. They all have, partnerships with each other kind of, but they're all natural enemies. And so they do things like hold hostages for each other that are just like human goods to exchange, so that we know that we're working on a fair basis because you have my daughter, and so I won't screw you over because you have my daughter. Whatever. So that's the foundation of this world. We start with our vampire Misery, and she is being sent to become the bride of the wolf pack Alpha. And that is the romance. And so it starts as like natural born enemies, but become lovers. And it's such a natural transition. But more than that, the author has done such a fantastic job of creating this natural banter where it feels fun and it doesn't feel out of the ordinary, because it's just Misery who is like this. And eventually we meet her best friend Serena, who also grew up next to her, and the two of them are this sarcastic, funny, whatever. And their partners, their eventual partners, kind of bounce back and forth off of it with them, but it is not core to their character. So it feels natural because it's not everybody's not behaving this way. Only a couple characters are this sarcastic and funny. And so it's not over the top, and the narrator isn't pushing it on us. And the last one, this is my top tier romance, simply because it shows such a real relationship. Again, we want to talk about realistic, not just an instant love, nothing like that. Outlander by Diana Gabaldon. If you are unfamiliar, which I don't know why you would be if you are here, because I always talk about Outlander and I'm in the middle of my reread, but Outlander book 1, we have Claire, who is married to Frank, and they are on a second honeymoon, and Claire accidentally travels in time, and she doesn't know how, so she doesn't know how to get back, and so she is 200 years in the past, and she is pushed into a relationship with a man who she actually finds out is basically her passionate soulmate, is somebody who is everything she could ever want, somebody who she would travel 200 years through time to be with. And this love develops over time. When she first goes back, she doesn't give him a second glance. They start to form a friendship, and this friendship is just on a level of getting to know each other and not rushing into things, not instant love or instant attraction or anything like that. She still is just behaving toward him as a companion. Then they get into this place where they need to be married, and it's kind of to protect the both of them. And rather than forcing it to be passionate immediately, they are both really awkward because they don't know how to be together. And so there's this really nice gradual change of their relationship where they take the time to talk and they take the time to be real with each other. And then they develop into this really passionate love where anytime she's in trouble, she just knows that he's going to come for her. They have such a deep friendship and compassionate relationship and companionable that even in book 1, you can see this relationship develop into something real. But then if you read the rest of the series, it just continues to grow with them as they continue to age, as they are now grandparents, and they are so much older than when they started. And yet their love is just so much bigger. And it's no longer this rip my clothes off and make love to me kind of love. But they still have that kind of passion. It is exactly what you would want your marriage to grow into as an adult, as a person, to be like more someday in the future, if that makes sense. So those are my top tier. When I'm talking the good, the bad, and the ugly of romance, those are the good. They are all women authors. Like I said, a man could never. Prove me wrong, I would love to hear it. All of this is to say, romance is the superior genre, women are superior authors. I don't know what to tell you. Prove me wrong if you can, but I don't think you can. And that's all I have to say about this. Thanks for hanging out. I have made way too long of a video, so if you stick around for this, thank you. I appreciate it.